Hello guys, this is probably the fifth episode of React.js tutorial anyway, so hello world. The smallest React example looks like this. Const root equals to go react dom dot create root of document dot get element by id of root dot render equals to h1 hello world closing h1 tag. It displays a heading saying hello world on the page. Try it on CodePen. Okay, let's see what we have in the CodePen. Okay, so here you get to see the HTML, the div tag whose ID is root, and there's a comment in here. This element's content will be replaced with your component. That's okay. If I press on JavaScript, so here it is. Constant root equals to react dom dot create root of document dot get element by id of root, and then in the next line root dot render in the parenthesis we have h1 opening tag hello world, h1 closing tag, and then semicolon. Okay, so output is hello world. The component, is it a component? It's actually, anyway, we will get to know whether it is HTML or something in between. Click the link above to open an online editor. Feel free to make some changes and see how they affect the output. Most pages in this guide will have editable examples like this one, okay? And how to read this guide. In this guide, we will examine the building blocks of React apps, elements and components. Once you master them, you can create complex apps from small reusable pieces. Tip: this guide is designed for people who prefer learning concepts step by step. If you prefer learning by doing, check out our practical tutorial. I will try that later. You might find this guide and the tutorial complementary to each other. Okay, this is the first chapter in a step-by-step guide about main React concepts. You can find a list of all chapters in the navigation sidebar. If you are reading this from a mobile device, you can access the navigation by pressing the button in the bottom right corner of your screen like this. Every chapter in this guide builds on the knowledge introduced in earlier chapters. You can learn most of React by reading the main concepts guide chapters in the order they appear in the sidebar. Okay, for example, introducing JSX is the next chapter after this one. Knowledge level assumptions. React is a JavaScript library, and we will assume you have a basic understanding of the JavaScript language. If you don't feel very confident, we recommend going through a JavaScript tutorial to check your knowledge level and enable you to follow along this guide without getting lost. It might take you between 30 minutes and an hour just to read, but to understand JavaScript fully, you could take a couple of weeks. But as a result, you won't have to feel like you are learning both React and JavaScript at the same time. Note, this guide occasionally uses some newer JavaScript syntax in the examples. If you haven't worked with JavaScript in the last few years, these 3 points should get you most of the way. I have clicked on this link, and they are nothing but the structuring, spread operator, classes, arrow function, etc. So let's get started. Keep scrolling down and you will find the link to the next chapter of this guide right before the website footer. Yes, so next article is introducing JSX. Consider this variable declaration. Const element equals to h1 hello world closing h1 tag semicolon. This funny tag syntax is neither a string nor HTML. It is something in between. Okay, it is called JSX and it is a syntax extension to JavaScript. We recommend using it with React to describe what the UI should look like, JSX may remind you of a template language, but it comes with the full power of JavaScript. JSX produces React elements. We will explore rendering them to the DOM in the next section below. You can find the basics of JSX necessary to get you started. Okay, so why JSX? React embraces the fact that rendering logic is inherently coupled with other UI logic, how events are handled, how the state changes over time, and how the data is prepared for display. Okay, and instead of artificially separating technologies by putting markup and logic in separate files, React separates concerns with loosely coupled units called components that contain both. Okay, we will come back to components in a further section, but if you are not yet comfortable putting markup in JavaScript, this talk might convince you otherwise. React doesn't require using JSX, but most people find it useful as a visual aid when working with UI inside the JavaScript code. It also allows React to show more useful error and warning messages. With that out of the way, let's get started. Okay, so 6 minutes already gone. Embedding expressions in JSX. In the example below, we declare a variable called name and then use it inside JSX by wrapping it in curly braces like this. Const name equals to Josh Perez, const element equals to h1 hello, and name in curly brackets h1 closing tag. You can put any valid JavaScript expression inside the curly braces in JSX, for example 2 plus 2 user.firstname or format name of user are all valid JavaScript expressions. In the example below, we embed the result of calling a JavaScript function format name of user into an h1 element. I have tested this code and I have found that if you don't have user in the parenthesis next to format name, it will work the same. Okay, because there is a const user in the next step, that's why. Still, let me read that to you. Function format name of user curly bracket return user dot first name plus user dot last name. Function closes. After that const user, that's an object because it is in parenthesis, not parenthesis, curly brackets are also key value pairs. That's why first name colon Harper, last name colon Perez. After that we have a JSX element, probably that's what it is called. Const element equals to parenthesis h1 tag hello, comma, in curly bracket we have format name of user, so the function is called with the user as argument, so that argument will be considered as a parameter there, and it will return user dot first name plus space plus user dot last name. Like I said earlier, if you don't, when you call the function from the below place like format name of user, if you don't send any argument, it will work the same because we already have an object called the user defined, that's first name Harper and last name Perez. So let's try it on CodePen. So that's it, you get to see the HTML and also the result, but here is the HT JavaScript, if you can see. It is the same thing. Still, let me read to you. Return format name of user curly bracket return user dot first name plus space plus user dot last name semicolon and curly bracket closes. Const user equals to in curly bracket we have first name colon Harper, comma, last name colon Perez, curly bracket close, semicolon, const element equals to, in parenthesis we have h1 opening tag hello, comma, then in curly brackets we have format name of user, we are calling the function, exclamation sign after this, and then closing the h1 tag, parenthesis closed, and then semicolon, const root equals to react dom dot create root of document dot get element by id of root, semicolon, root dot render equals to h1 hello, world, h1 closing tag. So if you change this one, if you change hello world with element like this, the way I am changing it, I am showing you what's going to happen. See, I have changed hello world, I have made it element, so it will automatically re-render. Oh gosh, something has been wrong. I guess it should be, I should place a pair of curly brackets. Let's do that. Let's try that. I'm killing your time, right? Okay, let's see what happens this time. Oh, now it works. So it has to be within curly brackets. I'm just printing out this particular element, hello Harper Paris. Okay, so that's it. That's probably was the fifth episode of React.js tutorial series. I will see you again in the sixth one. Thank you.